welcome back to Wise Up Biz Talk, where they find a business lesson in everything and help you wise up. Let's get started with your hostesses, Em and Kim.
Okay, so I want to talk about how business owners are responding to this pandemic and what are some things to think about, for your clients. So for example, I have a friend of mine, she hired she didn't hire. She put her kids into a tennis program. It's like 6 weeks long, and the instructor did provide communication that they were doing this session, the 6 week session. But what they didn't talk about, but this was talked about before all the closures and the only essential businesses and stuff like that. Now, she already paid for it and, hadn't heard from the business at that point, what I mean? To this day, has not heard from the business. And she kind of ran into him at the tennis courts, now that things are a little bit different. And he just got very defensive and was like, basically took the approach that you didn't show up, and she didn't even know that they were going to continue on. You know what I mean?
I mean, he should have reached out to her and let her know what's going on. You can't just assume things like, oh, I think that it's still going on, so let's show up.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would have assumed that attendance is not an essential thing, right?
No, it's not.
Would have done this same thing. Now, she does hold herself accountable for not following up, just to be, to just
wait. So she didn't reach out to him at all, or she did?
No, she didn't until recently because she saw him at the tennis court.
Oh, so she just assumed that the class was canceled.
Right. She assumed the class was canceled, which she admits that was wrong of her to do. But she's a consumer. Like, don't you think that business owners should improve
be more proactive?
Yeah. Like, I would have, instead of been defensive, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have reached out and, let everybody know that we were proceeding, especially if you would have started the class and you saw that there was only like a couple kids and there was 6. I probably would have that would have triggered me to, because otherwise you're just taking people's money and not delivering a service. And
I mean, if it's okay, so if it's a 6-week program, right? And then let's say the first week she missed the class. Okay, then maybe he might not be aware of it, that maybe she missed the class because of this pandemic. And let's say the second week rolled by, she didn't show up. So maybe he should have took a proactive step, reaching out to her and say, hey, we still have class. So where are you at? We miss you.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that would have been a better customer service approach and a way to show that you are engaged with your clients, is to follow up and say, hey, we noticed you haven't been there. I know that this is a crazy time. I want to let you know our classes are still in session. And here are your options. So okay, that's kind of what we're going back to, is let's get away from this whole tennis coach thing. But what options can businesses provide to clients that have already paid for service they're not receiving? Do you think that it would, what do business owners need to think about long term? Because right now they're thinking, oh, well, they've already paid me. But
yeah, but the thing is, you haven't delivered a service yet. You are trying to build a brand. You're trying to build a reputation. I think that you need to handle it correctly, because nowadays people have social media. They can go online and maybe write a bad review, and people can see that.
But also, it kind of goes back down to what we were saying before, is if you sign a contract as a going back to what we were saying about businesses, like when a business enters into a contract and cannot fulfill the obligations of that contract, do you think consumers are in the same boat? Like, you know what I mean? If you pay for a service that you're not going to receive because of the pandemic.
Well, that doesn't excuse the owner to freak it and just keep the money. It's not right. So the business owner should reach out, huh?
But technically they could. Technically they could say, look, I mean, we're in the same price as you are, and this just happened.
No, I mean, if they have not delivered the service, why would they technically deserve to keep the money?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, let's say okay, so last episode you were talking about the spa.
control that the businesses were all shut down. I just think that they should make right on it. You know what I mean? Like if you really want to keep the client and deliver a good customer service, then I think that you should provide some options. Especially like, okay, for example, with tennis, you can technically play right now. That has not been said you couldn't do that, or golf, like if you have golf lessons.
I mean, you can play, but I don't think, it's a class, it's a business, it's not an essential business, so it should not be operated in a way.
To do it. Yeah, it's not an essential business, but you're still allowed to do it. Like they never said you couldn't do golf, or you couldn't do tennis. Like they said you are allowed, those are two of the sports that you could play, right? But my whole thing is what if people aren't comfortable going because that coach is exposed, they don't know who they're exposed to and things like that. So to me, what are the best options to give your clients? Like, do you feel like you should take 100% of the loss, or should you offer their money back, or do you keep their money and make up the lessons later? Like what would make sense for you?
So I would maybe not offer the full refund. I will offer class at a later time if they choose, but maybe not a full refund because she did pay and she did, get into agreement with me or to hire me as a coach. So there's agreement there. So just the time period of the class, it could be now or it could be later or it could be in the future. So right now, because of pandemic, we can't really,
Offering a credit, like basically I'll
credit
to make up the classes later or whatever.
Yeah. Because I have the same situation because I am in a piano class, right? So sometimes because of work, I need to miss the class, or because of traveling, I get to miss the class. So I can make it up at a later time. So I don't get penalized for it. Right. So that's the only reason why I took the class, because if they were really strict with their schedule, I don't think that I would ever book the class.
Yeah, no. And that is true. And I think it varies by industry. Cause like if you're offering a coaching service, like, cause I do know of a lady who does offer music lessons. She does like guitar, I think piano, saxophone, stuff like that. But she's very strict. Like you do not get to make up the class and this and that. And I'm like, then people don't want to be as like commit to things because there's not flexibility, right? With do need to require some flexibility. So I mean, I think that in this scenario, I think that the communication could be better and it should come first from the business owner. Correct. You are the authority in your business, so you should be the one that says, get out in front of it. So like, for example, we had went through Corona for a little bit and we were listening to JT Fox and he's like, reach out to your clients, let them know you're there. It didn't even occur to me to do that. But then I was like, oh, let me do that. And granted, Corona had already been going on, but I did it anyway, whether it was too late or not. I think that the business owners, as the authority, should be, setting the standards and the guidance for their clients.
Well, I guess now before we sign a contract, we need to read the contract and maybe have like a addendum or whatever in there regarding the pandemic. Because before that, we never really pay attention to what could happen. I mean, never really thought that a pandemic that will affect the whole world will ever happen. So nowadays, probably we got to start adding that into our contract now. So what if, this will happen? Then what will happen to our classes? Will it still go on or not? Because truthfully, the governor had shut down the whole, states. So if that's the case, then truthfully, the classes should not be in session in a way.
No, they shouldn't. But I want to tell you about a positive customer experience that I've had recently. Okay. We recently started gymnastics for our daughters at a local club. It's called Roland Ballard. And, it's not cheap. Okay. I mean, they're toddlers, but still it's not cheap. And I was like, well, in my mind, I'm like, man, I wonder if they're going to make us pay, or I wonder what they're going to do. And, like I'm a little nervous about the economy and things like that. So I was kind of waiting to see what they were going to do. So they went ahead and, because they had already charged us for the month of March. So they gave us a partial credit because, we obviously went to a couple classes at the beginning of March. They gave us a partial credit for the rest of March, and then they chose not to charge anybody, but they are offering free like online classes. And I thought it was just a great approach that they took. They took care of their clients, which they're very well known in the community. So they took care of their clients. They made sure that everything they did was as fair. They may be taking a hit. Now their online classes, parents can make a donation to the teacher who's doing the online class. So that's pretty cool. But I just thought that was, for me, was really good. And now I'm like, oh, because our daughters want to do ballet. And so I was telling, my husband, Christian, I said, I really just think that we need to suck it up and pay it the higher rate at Roland Ballard, because there's obviously places. They're toddlers, so it doesn't make sense. But for me, the way they handled this corona stood out to me. So I felt like, I want to give them a Wise Up shout out, because I think what they did was the best thing they could have done. And now they gained me as a client now I'm a loyal client. Before I was like, I'm just testing it out. Now I'm a loyal client, and now they upsold me and they didn't even have to do anything.
So they left you a great impression.
You, in turn, are going to get a good result. And how they handled it, I thought was well. Now, how this tennis coach is handling it, he may still get business, but he won't get referrals. And that's unfortunate for him. Don't get me started about my girls' swim lessons, okay? Because
we can go on all day.
Business principle about that all day long. But I think that's how people and small business owners need to reflect during this time is, how are you being treated as a consumer versus how are you treating your consumers? And I think that that's what people should be talking about and like kind of considering right now.
So what's the takeaway? How you want to be treated, that's how you should treat your customer?
I think the takeaway is, can you do something different in the communication that you've given your clients? If you haven't communicated to your clients, it's not too late. Late is better than never. But I think that business owners should reflect on how they're treating their clients right now and how to communicate. Number one. Number two, think about what your positive experience is as a consumer and try to implement those into your business. That's the takeaway.
Right.
Thank you for joining us today on Wise Up Biz Talk. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and leave a rating. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Wise Up Biz Talk. Please share our episodes on your business page with friends and family so they too can wise up. Always a business lesson in everything. See you on the next episode.